Hello, I would like to welcome all you screwheads and retards to the latest edition of my show. It's Sunday, so I'm not going to do any news today. I'm just going to do what's on my mind. Just something an issue that's been kind of on my mind for a while, actually. And so let's get started, shall we? There's a pastor he's a little famous. His name's Justin Peters. You can find him on the internet. All you have to do is press in Justin Peters, right? And you'll see him pop up. He has his own YouTube channel, and he's got like thousands and thousands of subscribers. And let me just say one thing. The title of this particular episode is Justin Peters is John MacArthur's boy. Justin Peters is John MacArthur's boy. And it sounds a bit pejorative. I don't really mean it that way. Well, I do, but not in a completely vindictive sense. I mean that Justin Peters is John MacArthur's boy. John MacArthur's cheerleader. Right? But if I met Justin Peters, he would probably be the nicest guy. I think he'd be a great neighbor, and I'd wave to him. Hey, good morning. He'd wave back. Hey, how you doing? That kind of thing. So I don't mean it in a vindictive sense, but he is John MacArthur's boy. Anyway, and what Justin does is he's like me in the sense that he's a Calvinist. I'm a Calvinist. And I agree with a lot of what he says, like he'll have shows featuring charismatic loons like Bill Johnson. And I agree with him. I do think most charismatics are a bunch of loons. Or, he did a show about Mark Driscoll, saying that Driscoll's a bully and things of that nature. He's a bully who has no right to call himself a pastor. That I'm not so sure. I mean, I don't know enough about Mark Driscoll to comment one way or the other. But I will say this to Justin, and I don't know if you'll ever see this, but one thing about this dude is he's always on the internet, scouring the internet, and looking for material for his next YouTube subject matter. He's one of those types. And I'm like, what can I say? I'm that way too. Like I've only been doing this for a little while now, but I kind of enjoy it. But I will say this. It goes back to the idea of glass houses and stones. Glass houses and stones. You can say what you want about Bill Johnson being a loon, and I agree he is a loon, or Mark Driscoll being a bully. But in John MacArthur's church, something really bad happened. And you can't be a cheerleader for John MacArthur and at the same time put these people down without looking a little hypocritical. And of course I'm talking about some of the sexual issues. Not that John MacArthur had anything to do with that. He never put his hand on anybody. Let me tell you something about John MacArthur. He's a great Bible teacher. I listen to him all the time because he really is a great Bible teacher. And he's Calvinist to the core. I'm a Calvinist, and everything he says, it wows me. It's very profound, and I'm a big fan of R.C. Sproul, the late great R.C. Sproul. Really like the guy. So I just want to clear that up. But something bad happened in MacArthur's church with this Eileen Gray and Wendy Gouet and other women. And it was handled very badly. I'll give you an example. Eileen Gray was this woman who was married to an abusive man who was beating her up and beating up the children. and also sexually abusing the children. So I guess Grace Community Church, that's MacArthur's church, sent a counselor, and they said, look, even though he's beating you up, you got to go back to him. He's repenting, so you got to go back to him. And she's like, no, I'm not going back to that. Are you nuts? I'm going to go back to that and get slapped around and watch my kids get sexually molested? It's that crazy, right? So she said, no, I'm not doing it. And then John MacArthur publicly humiliated her during one of the services, during a church discipline service. And he kicked her out. Sung Amazing Grace. You can find that up. You can look that up on YouTube. He humiliated her in front of all the congregation, and Eileen Gray left. And like I said, with her I can't even say that word, ignominiously left. Right? So it was just a bad scene. And there was another woman who was getting sexually molested by her father, who was affiliated with Grace Community Church, and this Wendy Gouet would send John letters saying, basically expressing her soul to her pastor. And John's basic attitude was, hey, get over it. It's the past. Just get over it. Which is completely, it's a little heartless, right? A little heartless there. And what I would say to Justin Peters is, if this guy's your friend and you're his boy, you have to tell him. You have to say, look, you got to apologize to these people. You made a mistake. You have to own up to it. I mean, if you're going to attack all these other people for what they've done, then you also have to look at yourself and who you're affiliated with. Now, I will say this. John MacArthur is older than dirt. In fact, his teammate on the basketball team back when he was in high school was Moses. He's that old. He's an old guy. He's in his 80s, right? And times were different. Times were different back then. And this case happened around 2001, I believe, the Eileen Gray case. And things were, it doesn't sound that long ago, but when you do the math, it's actually 23 years ago. That's how fast time goes by. So things change, and sometimes older people like myself, we're set in our ways and we don't adapt with the changes. And I would say, if I were John MacArthur, and I would get up and say, look, I'm an old guy. I made a few mistakes, and I apologize. I screwed up. I'm human. It happens. And I hope you forgive me. Right? I fumbled the ball. And if I were Justin Peters, I would stop being his boy and start being more of his friend. Sometimes friends have to do that. They have to tell people, hey, you screwed up. You got to make it right. Anyway, that's about all I have to say, but it does kind of remind me of what happened in Penn State with Joe Paterno, where you put your program above common human decency, right? You put your agenda above common human decency, and it's not good. Anyway, Justin, if you see this, you got a job to do. If you're his friend, that's what you have to go and tell him. Hey, don't be such a narcissist, John. Come forth and do what you have to do. Be a man. All right, I'm at 10 minutes, so I guess I'm just going to get going. This has been another edition of my YouTube channel. I hope you enjoyed it, and I wish you all a wonderful day. And let me say goodbye. Bye-bye.